Welcome to episode 106 of Tech Startup Podcast, part of the TechFarm umbrella. We are here this morning at Christie Digital. My name is Amaris Gerson. You are Stephen Campbell, my co-host. Hi, and we are here with Gary Klassen, who is the Director of Solution Software at Christie.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for coming here. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's a huge space. I got lost a couple times. Did you get lost?
I didn't, but we had a cool tour. There were all kinds of little nooks and crannies that we got to see.
It's a massive
really
space.
excited about the Corvette behind us that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, actually, it's a fun place to be and work. There's lots of neat things and lots of places we could have filmed. So.
Yeah, well, and this is a bit of a different one in that you are not a startup. Christie is not a startup. How many people work at Christie?
Oh, hundreds?
No, more than that. I would say thousands. 1,500.
1,500 people work.
Your lady behind the camera says 1,500. Yeah,
Wow.
okay, so that's not a startup. You guys are not in the startup, but you were a startup.
A deep history as well.
Yeah,
So the company here is the extension of the original Electrohome company that started in KW in 1903.
Oh.
And what I love about Christie has a deep history, not only in the area, but also with innovation and reinvention. So I love the stories, like the things going way back. Carl Pollack, who was the original president, not the original president, but one of the presidents.
Okay.
He actually started CKCO TV, and I'm told that's partially because he was selling radios and TVs to people in the area, and they needed something to listen to and watch. So it was interesting.
That's cool.
Interesting. Yeah, the content had to drive the hardware.
We wanted to come here because we end up talking to very early stage startups or maybe mid-stage startups, so we thought it'd be interesting to talk to a company that started and is successful and has well past that startup stage to maybe give advice or hear sort of that unique story that comes from someone that isn't a startup anymore.
Yeah, and actually, the other thing that I think is neat about Christie is just that that spirit of reinvention and continuing to do new things in new markets, continuing to, no business is ever successful, continuing to do what they've done for the long term.
Yes.
So they're constantly reinventing, and there's a lot of wonderful things going on at Christie that I'm quite excited about.
Do you want to give us that sort of 3-minute, maybe 2-minute elevator pitch about who Christie is?
Oh, okay. About who Christie is? Christie is a
you prepared this?
Projector and display company with a deep history of being of doing projectors for high-end cinema, corporate environments, video walls, all that kind of thing. And what comes along with that too is we've done a lot of work with a lot of different customers who are looking for ways to project and to build really engaging interactive experiences. So we do a lot of work with you might typically you'll think of a projector as something projecting onto a square wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But increasingly, it's not just onto a square wall, it's onto a curved wall or a dome or 9 projectors or 20 projectors projecting onto the House of Parliament.
Or I've seen you at events and it's on those weird 3D printed blobs of things.
It could be a building, it could be a 3D object that you're projecting onto, and you can still all do that. You can use any surface that you can look at as a surface, as a canvas for information and for light.
Don't you have that thing for veins too? I've seen that.
Christie Medical is another very interesting thing that's happening is one of the applications of the technology is you can actually use what you just described is it's a technology to project. Actually, what it'll do is use a camera to understand exactly where your veins are, and then projection map back an image of that actually onto your arm,
so cool.
So you can see exactly what's going on in your arms. You can get a very precise they can get the needle where it needs to be and also see what's going on with the veins.
It's
actually
every
really
projection possible. It's kind of what you're talking about. It's on every possible surface.
Yeah. And actually, that's what I find. And you can project on all these different things. You need to find a way to align them and set them up. And right now, so what I'm excited about is that a lot of times these things are very high-end, expensive installations.
Right.
But they're difficult to move around, and sometimes they're a lot of thought gets put into them. But as we're able to make it easier to be able to set up these things quickly, align them, make them look pixel perfect, and continue it, keep that quality up over the long term, it means these things will be more accessible, in more locations.
Well, right, and as technology goes, I'm guessing those projectors are possibly getting smaller or easier to move and not as heavy as they probably were back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, the one thing that I love, actually, there's this story that somebody told me about a long time ago. The way, like the first 10 years of video, all they did was they had a camera fixed at the back of the room filming a play. And after 10 years, somebody realized you can move the camera. And that kicked off like 100 years of innovation. And but when you look at the actual storytelling, right now it's still kind of, there's some things that are still kind of fixed.
Yeah.
It's still an audience sitting in the same way looking at a rectangular screen. And what I love about these technologies is that it's the opportunity to invert that, to make it, to bring the storytelling, the video, into something that you're gathered around and actually looking at on a 3D object. And the potential there, like not only for storytelling, right? So it's so much more human. So we're standing around an object that we're actually interacting with, which is such a human way to look at things. But it's also such a wonderful way to convey information. So if you imagine like information about a building or a model or something being projected onto the surface, all of a sudden you no longer have to take all this information and put it into a flat document and try to describe it and reimagine it. It's actually right there and you can interact with it and discuss it.
So when you're looking at the market, what
awesome.
sectors are medical and then projectors? So is there another sector that has really gravitated towards you guys or that you're focusing on other than medical? Is it entertainment or is it storytelling? And
medical is one area.
Yep.
Another key area is we call them location-based experiences, but this is like theme parks, big installations, like public installations. People will project onto statues and like in public spaces.
Right.
And there's a lot of really compelling work going on there. Arenas and courts. So people will turn an ice rink into, you'll use multiple projectors to turn an ice rink into a canvas.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of really compelling stuff with that, like even monitor the Zamboni and see where it's going, do interactive
so
stuff.
it's some really large scale stuff.
Yeah.
Is the medical stuff large scale or is that really small micro
so
stuff?
Medical is a very different market from like, there's location based, which is like the bigger
Where are my
experiences
patients
and
in the
things like
hospital?
that. So that's one section. And then there's like medical, very different market, highly regulated, a very different industry. So that's another thing that's going on here. And there's a lot of work going on with like businesses and corporate communication too. So Christie, because we have this long history in the market with different products, we have lots of experience into all of these different markets. And actually, the thing that I think is cool is that, by listening to the customers, and one of the things that kicked off my opportunity to be able to work with this kind of projection mapping is you go and you show people what's possible and understand the customer and their challenges, and they kind of come back to you and they go, you guys can do that. Hey, we've also got this other problem with this. Could you also help us with that?
Yeah, what I was going to say, the stuff that I've seen when you're at events, I'm not sure if you have customers for that yet or if you have a lot of customers for that, but you're really just showing off like, hey, did you know we could do this? Because every technology company, you're doing a lot of innovation. So it's a lot of research and development. You're coming up with new things that you show it to someone and they're like, oh, if you just did it this way, it would totally be a thing for us. Right. Is that kind of what's happening?
Yeah, actually, very much. So like Christie's done some remarkable demos at trade shows in the past and some at Communitech. That Corvette back there is where we took a large 3D model of a car and projection mapped onto it and created an experience. And by doing that, we learned a lot about the challenges that it takes to actually do this. Like it can take 8 hours to like align the cameras and the projectors correctly. So we built a system to make that much easier. And that's what led to the Brownstone demo, which is a demo where we projection mapped onto a building.
Okay.
In like 1 minute per projector, did the alignment, set up a show just like that. And by having those conversations with customers, it's awesome the way when you talk to people about what's possible, then all of a sudden they start to light up and they start to dream about the possibilities. And then what happens is that then they go, if you guys can do that, can you also help us with this?
Right.
And there's this wonderful sea, like this wave of opportunities that comes when you start engage in the conversation, listen carefully to the customer, understand what their challenges are, and think, hey, wait, there's something we can do here.
Yeah.
And actively explore
and
that
you are such a big company that you're able to do that in so many different industries. We've talked to other startups that have sort of had that similar experience where they've just listened to the customer. I'm thinking of Bridget when they went out and talked to all of the construction. I think it was 500 cranes. And that allowed them to build their product. You are such a large company now that you're able to listen to all of those customers in all of those different industries and create some really amazing projection systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, and it's still, it's some of the same challenges still, because it's not, when you're looking for those new opportunities, you also still have to, you have to go out and engage and listen to the customers, put yourself in their perspective, understand their challenges, and then build solutions towards
So Gary,
them.
we talked a little bit about your market. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing to keep yourselves at the top of your game. What fuels you guys? You're an older company, so it's not like, what motivated you to do this, but what keeps you in the game? What keeps you guys fresh? Because when I think of you guys, I do think of, like Amaris says, just constant innovation. And I never really knew what you guys were doing until I looked at it and found out. But just see all these neat, innovative things. So what keeps you guys motivated? Is it that innovation?
Yeah, actually, and it's the customer engagement. So I know a lot of people ask me why I came to Christie. It's been 6 months now.
Where did you come from, Gary?
I was I've been in the area since 1987. I spent a long time at BlackBerry, a wonderful time at BlackBerry. It was a great experience for me, 15, 16
And you're
years.
sort of known, I knew about you years ago because you popped up in my Team BlackBerry Twitter stuff as the builder of BBM back in the day.
Yeah, that was actually, BlackBerry was an amazing thing to be a part of. And actually for a lot of the same reasons. It's like we had an opportunity to build. BBM was one of a number of things that I had the opportunity to be a part of and to see happen BBM is an excellent example. When we first built it, we didn't expect it to be what it became. We built it for to address a need, something, and we continued to work on that, and that we built something for ourselves, and we thought a solution we wanted.
Right.
And we listened carefully, that cycle of listening carefully to what people wanted and building on that. And it's amazing how that turned into something.
And so you were at BlackBerry for how many years?
16.
16. So what employee number were you? If that's early days BlackBerry. Were you one of the earlies?
Not very early.
Okay. All right.
No. There were thousands when I was there, around that area.
I worked with someone who was employee number 80 something, and I thought that was amazing.
Right. That was, before that. But
yeah, so a long time, and now you're here. How did they get you to come here?
Yeah, so actually that's what people ask, so why did you come to Christie? And the simplest answer is because I'm a sucker for cool tech used by theme parks and cinemas.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
And actually there were some people here who came and talked about what's going on and just the potential of like I talked about, to be able to take projection technologies, right, and solve some really hard problems in terms of how do you align them, set them up, get the content there, in order to bring new things to life. Yeah. The opportunity to help create these experiences where I love. David Yaw once used the term unconscious carry, and he used that for a term when the magic is when the technology. You concentrate on solving the hard problems with technology so that the end user is not thinking about it. Right? And it becomes magic, right? So there's this wonderful thing that happens when somebody they're not thinking about the technology it takes to send somebody a message, they just send them a message. And they're not thinking about, when you see an experience in a theme park or somewhere, and you're not thinking about all the wonderful details that has to go into making that solution happen time and time and time again, and solving those hard problems. And
thankfully, we don't want to see that a lot. I knew some people that worked at some theme parks, Disney World, and once their position was a revealer. So once you understand some of the things that Disney's doing or some of the theme parks, you lose some of that wonder sometimes. Yeah.
Well, and what you're doing, if you're talking about the sort of the entertainment industry, the theme industry, the theme parks and stuff like that, that you're creating magic for the customers that are there, the people that are viewing that. It's magic. You know how it works.
Yeah.
And everyone at Christie knows what's happening, and maybe the people behind the scenes know what's happening, but they don't get it, and especially for kids.
Yeah.
So that's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, actually, so a chance to be part of that,
and
to make it easier, and to bring more solutions like this, to make solve the hard problems, to make it easier for these things to happen in more locations, is a pretty compelling thing to have the chance to be a part of.
That makes sense.
So.
That's awesome.
We talked about a little bit about what your fuel was, but we didn't ask about community involvement. So, what's sort of been the support from the community that you felt and that Christie's felt, or how you've supported the community?
I love this question. I'm glad for the chance to answer it. I came, so I can answer that from two perspectives. One is myself personally, and one for Christie. For me personally, I moved here from Calgary to go to school at the University of Waterloo in 1987. And people ask me why I didn't move back, and I might move somewhere else once I'm bored. But there's been a lot of awesome experiences, to be a chance to be a part of a lot of things that are going on here, to meet with really smart people has been really great. I also want to say too that, like, recently going through the transition I did, going from a company that has been like a wonderful experience, going on to new things, I was blown away by the support that I personally received in that transition. Hundreds of people reached out to me. A lot of people I haven't had a chance to properly follow up on, but still would like to, so don't give up on me. But to have that support. And also, it gave me an opportunity to see just all of the wonderful things that are going on in this community. There are people here who have seriously changed the world and been a part of changing the world and having real impact on people's lives. And then to watch those people take that experience, and it's addictive, and they want to do it again, and they're reinvesting everything that they know in new endeavors, new companies, and in each other, spurring each other on. The coffees and the conversations has been it's been a wonderful thing to be a part of.
That's like one of the great things about this town, for sure.
Yeah,
very supportive of that. And
we
what
have
about
some of the smartest flies in town.
Yeah,
the flies on the walls to listen to some of those conversations.
Yeah. You know, and Mike L said this once when he was asked about RIM. Why are you building it in Waterloo? And he said, well, you build the refinery next to the gold mine. Meaning it's the talent, it's the people, it's the universities, it's the education, it's the smart people who are here. That's the gold.
Well, that's what you've really seen, is that, like, when BlackBerry stumbled, it wasn't that the whole town stumbled. There was enough around that you hardly noticed. People just sort of kept going, and there was enough industry here and enough innovation and enough support that community kept going.
Yeah.
And that's part of our fuel too, is talking to those smart people and just having that energy.
Well, and we've talked to startups that have people that have worked at some of those big companies that are now part of innovation in a small company, or I mean, I'm thinking if they start their own company. We've talked to a couple people like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
what about
that's
Christie?
for me personally. And for Christie's been a long-time member of this community and a member of Communitech. A lot of they built a lot of demos and things at Communitech, ways to start those conversations about and let people know what's possible.
Right.
There's also, right now, Christie's running a Christie Digital Media Accelerator, which is a program at Communitech where, you know, looking for companies who are, because we understand, and I love this about Christie, understanding and appreciating that we're providing technology components and capacity, but really the change that's going on, the opportunity that's going on in digital media is much larger than any one company can capture. So talking to startups, selecting some specifically to be in this program, to be able to mentor them in the digital media space, companies who are doing something compelling, being able to invest in them, provide them advice and experience from Christie, and have Christie experts in there is something that Christie's doing. Hyphen is a part of Christie that is now its own sort of prototyping company, so providing those services to the wider community as well. There's a number of different ways that Christie has benefited from and continues to invest in the community.
That's great.
We see them in the community, and we appreciate it for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit of the wins, losses, and what's happening in the future of Christie.
Yes. What's your sort of the wins? We'll focus on the wins right now.
Yeah.
Some great things that have happened.
So we're entering our 3x3. Give us 3 of them.
Yeah. So actually, I think a couple of them are already mentioned, like Electrohome and the long history, I think, is one real win. I love the way that, creating new markets by understanding customers and creating new business models. We talked about medical, which is also really cool. Another thing is actually the digital cinema revolution is something that Christie was a part of, and I love this story. If in 2000, digital cinema was coming about, possible to move from film to digital. Right. The problem was if you were running a movie theater, you couldn't afford the expense to upgrade to a digital projector, and there was really no incentive to. So it really took creative thinking in the market, and what happened was it actually cost like $2,500 or thousands of dollars to copy a film.
Okay.
But it's much less expensive if you do that digitally. So actually what happened was they came up with was the opportunity to be able to redistribute films very inexpensively, use the cost benefit from that to be able to help pay for the projector.
To retrofit sort of.
So making it possible.
So you were part of, like Christie was part of that.
Understanding the industry, understanding the customer to make it possible to bring about a revolution. And this business model is what fueled the revolution from film to digital. And then that's happening again. There's more improvements that are coming in cinema, but that's.
Can you think of any things in the really early days of either Electro Home or Christie that sort of was that, like, oh, this is going to work kind of moment? Was there anything like that you know about?
You know what? So when I'm talking about these things, like these experiences for me are like the stories that I love from Christie's history.
Right.
But of course, I wasn't a part of them. So if you could talk to other people here, it's wonderful to hear their stories.
Like, that back in the day, you know, it was just a small company. To know that it sounds like maybe coming up with what was the TV station, radio station?
CKCO.
Yeah, coming up with CKCO was a kind of a win to help land all those successes for.
Yeah, so CKCO, that was like in the 1950s or even before then. And then there was this, I guess over the past 10 years, there's been the transition from film to digital. And now it's the medical. And also this opportunity that we've got in like projection mapping to make it easier to build these new experiences for theme parks, domes, and everything else. From on a team basis, when you asked about wins, I came here 6 months ago. And so we were starting a new initiative.
Okay.
Declan Whalen is someone who does some agile coaching. He came in and we did what was called an ignition. So we started off the team. We did this workshop where we got UX, test, everybody who was involved in the project all together. And Declan helped us run this workshop where we got to hear, the business case, why we were, what we told customers about what we were building, what we told executives about what we were building. Everybody got to hear that from the get-go. We ran through workshops to talk about what we were going to build. We talked about how we wanted to be viewed as a team and structured as a team. And that set us off on a wonderful way to be able to align the team all towards one goal, where everybody everybody understands the business, the customer, and is able to participate towards that. And we've seen huge benefits already because of that.
That's kind of a silly thing that we say it all the time, but communication helps. If you just communicate all of the same goals, you're all on the same path, and you hear struggles like that. As companies get bigger, they stop talking to each other. So the fact that your team, the whole team, is talking is what has been a win for you.
And so many benefits. And it sets up a team to be able to exceed expectations when they know what the customer has required. So recently,
that is expensive, and it takes a lot of time. It's not easy to communicate that broad vision. So that's why a lot of companies don't do it, right? Because it's not just like, but then when you do invest in it, you are reaping benefits.
Oh, yeah,
right?
huge benefits.
Yeah.
Recently, and recent wins, we did we've been talking to hockey, people who run hockey arenas.
Okay.
They have a problem. You've got like 8, 12, 16 projectors, and somebody comes in, sets up their concert, and they bump the projector, and then they have to redo the alignment.
Right.
And it can be difficult, both because you got to do it at a certain time, and you have to understand what the quality looks like, and have specific people trained. So with that market input, we actually, so we did some improvements to our software specifically to address that.
Okay.
And actually what I love is that the team actually went and they exceeded. Like we had an idea of what we'd be able to do, entirely exceeded because they had that understanding and knew along the way what it could be, what it could be and what the requirements are. So we've got a machine vision now to make it really easy to be able to just do the realignment and start the show.
That's awesome.
So the flip side.
Yeah. What about problems? Anybody else bumping cameras or knocking things over?
What have been some struggles for Christie in its growth to this point?
So most of it, I can talk specifically, Christie in general. I actually am more comfortable talking about the specific areas that we've been working on. Yeah. But I gotta say, actually, that the thing I talked about, engaging with customers, and has led to a number of opportunities. And so we have this problem right now where we've got this strategic roadmap of things that we really want to be able to deliver.
Right.
But in the interim, some shorter-term customer-driven opportunities have been coming up. So we're having this struggle. We constantly are struggling between how much time do we allocate to long-term strategic things that we want to be able to deliver and the incoming customer things that are driving it. But actually, we keep reminding ourselves, it's really a nice problem to have.
Sure.
is prioritizing
Customers
between
talking
those
to you
things.
and letting you know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
opportunities are.
The other struggles we have is perception, right? Having people both in the talent acquisition, in the community, and in the customer space, helping people to know and understand that Christie is more than just a high-end projector manufacturer, but we also have this expertise in building these solutions, these systems, and the software, and that we're willing to that we're looking to engage with people on that.
That's a pretty common struggle, is that getting that right voice in the community for
Yeah.
talent or for sales.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're struggling with that, or working towards fixing that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, and like letting people, and the other struggle is like letting people know what's possible, right?
Right.
So we're looking at ways to that's the opportunity to do, is let people know what's possible, let people know what our capabilities are and how we can help.
So you've been really successful at doing that with the staff, and then you have to push past to the customer, because the
Yeah.
customer is your staff, right? And a lot of people think that you stop
Yeah.
because our staff gets it, everybody knows the vision, and there's these
Yeah,
great
yeah.
opportunities from it. And then you start to talk about the customer. The customer is your staff still, right? So I think there's a big dichotomy in that thinking.
Right.
I took PR training from someone, and one of the things they said really stuck. And he said, the biggest problem with communication is the misconception that it's actually happened. Meaning that sometimes you think you've done enough communicating,
Yep.
Right.
but often re-communicating and over-communicating, you need to keep doing that
Yeah,
to get
that
the
makes
message
sense.
out there.
Yeah, what other struggles? Any other...
Yeah, there's got to be like one big mess up that is hilarious. There has to be. Every company has one. Like there must be. You went to go set up this amazing projector and this big deal customer, and you forgot it, or something. There has to be some story. I don't know. I'm making stuff
Okay,
up.
you know what? Actually, when you say it like that, and I say about this too, in my history as an innovator and the things that I've worked on, that our life is that,
Yeah.
right? Projectors not turning on, problems, everything else. And, it's to the point where, that's standard course of business. That happens all the
But
time.
that's why we kind of want to talk about it, so people know that's just what happens. That is how things work. Stuff breaks. When someone's watching, that's when it doesn't work. It'll work perfectly until someone looks at it.
Yeah, I know. Actually, yeah. So with the demos and things that what I've really appreciated about there's a lot of history with setting up these demos
Yeah.
and things with the people at Christie. So yeah, those things do happen,
Okay.
and they happen all the time. I wish I could give you
No, it's good. The fact that you say it happens and it happens all the time, that's sort of, I think, what
Yeah,
we need to
actually,
hear.
so the message is it does happen all the time. And one of the things that I think has been wonderful is that what we've been doing when we've been doing first installations or customer demos or things like that, because we know all those things are going to happen, we've been going in very deliberately with a very clear line between, okay, this is what we must do, and here's bonus points. Right. So because there's always more that you want to be able to do, but you show up on site and you've got a problem, unexpected problems, cables, cameras, all kinds of different problems that you don't expect. Right. But it's been wonderful the way we've been when we're able to say very clearly, here's the minimum requirements that we must do, and we're going to focus on there first foremost, and then we've got these bonus points. What's been awesome is that actually there's been a number of times in the last 6 months where I woke up on a Wednesday and I went, we're going to crash and burn. I don't think we're going to pull this off. This is going to be bad.
Right.
And then 6 hours later, because the team was all working on it, we pulled it off.
Oh, you got to have a little more faith then,
And
clearly.
it works. And then actually a number of
6
times
hours,
it's
though, really, Gary? 6 hours?
You've got a good team. Maybe he's talking about the whole company as his team. I don't know. How big is this team?
But in a number of those instances, we've been able to hit their the basic requirements and hit the bonus points. So it's been pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's great.
The
It
icing
But that
on the
framework
cake.
is it
just changes how you think, and so your expectations of it.
it's this people who work with me know that there's this difference between explore and execute. So being clear on what we need to execute on,
Right.
what is the basic requirements, and then the explore is the things that are added on, things that might help inform the future.
Yeah, you don't want to fail fast when you're executing, but when you're exploring, let's
Yeah,
get some problems
and
out of the
being
way.
clear
Right?
about what those two things are creates a wonderful dynamic.
All right, so that's some of the wins and the losses. Oh, you have another one?
Yeah, no.
Oh, you're ready for the future.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So tell us about
Yeah.
tell us about some
The next
things.
two
that-
questions are the funnest ones.
Tell us about some things that Christie's doing
What's
in the
coming
future.
up?
Yeah, what's
Yeah, so actually the future is, and I touched on this already. I think it's the potential for technologies like projection mapping. To be able to turn ice surfaces in courts into like canvases, not just that, but like buildings, exterior things. And it's the opportunity, like what I love is the opportunity to be able to bring this, not so these the isolated cases, but so that they're more common, so that they can travel, they can move, they can be in more places.
So I can have an avatar wrapped around my car as I'm driving down the street with a projection on my car as like a...
Where's the projector?
Possibly.
I don't know, ask Gary.
Public spaces. All these...
Don't worry, he's got a team.
That's what I want, though.
So
you got 6
potential
hours.
for innovation, the things that you can do, that's what you're really excited about.
Well, just bring those awesome experiences.
Right.
Make them more common, easier to
Okay, so
run,
that's what's coming,
more common, and available in more spaces. So and so the wonderful thing is that so the creative people aren't trying to figure out how to do the alignment or that, but they're just concentrated. They can just see the space as a canvas to fill, which is pretty awesome.
Okay, so that's one of the futures. So everything else?
Yeah,
You got a list there, I can see.
Cinema. So I talked about the transition to digital.
Yeah.
But the wonderful thing is that like there's newer technologies coming. So Christie's working on like laser projectors. Has laser projectors, bigger screens, higher contrast, higher HDR, which will greatly improve the experience. And seeing that roll out, right now it's in isolated places, but seeing that come out to more.
Yeah.
And the potential, the projection mapping to be able to like to invert it, so it's no longer just onto a wall, but it's onto 3D objects, things like models of cars, models of buildings, interactive spaces, so that people are no longer standing like an audience looking at a screen. They're standing around objects to understand them better, to see the and what I'm most excited about is that like these new technologies, they're very creative people. Creative scientists are looking at what's possible, and they're dreaming about what's new. So what I am personally most excited about is that the things that are going to emerge as a result of this work that none of us can expect right now. And I think that's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
That is neat. Yeah.
So it's your favorite time.
Yeah? Can I do the thing and everything?
Yeah.
So, Gary, tell us a little about, this is our Startup Crush, # Startup Crush section. You've won the $1 million, or you've had a great exit, Google bought whatever you were working on. Christie is no longer, the world is your oyster. What are you going to do, or who is doing something cool out there that...
What startup do you think is doing something really neat that you've seen in the community or the global community that's doing really great things that you're really excited about? I feel like you have a couple.
Yeah. Actually, I love this question, right? And this is something that, to me, to be part of something big that I had the opportunity to impact people's lives. It's pretty compelling. Yep. And when you think about it, I think we as a society have just started. There's some really compelling things that are coming and are happening. In a broad sense, if you ask me to think big, there's things like autonomous cars. Spend some time in Europe, and you realize that the portions of Europe are all in the cities, in the old part of cities, that were all invented before they were designed for cars.
The roads are
and
tiny.
They're wonderfully human, right? You can walk from store to store, and they're built for people first, not for cars. And we spent some time without a car, and it was a wonderful experience. When we moved back to Canada, my 16-year-old daughter, she felt isolated, trapped. I can't travel as well as I could, right? My sister had a stroke last year and lost the feeling in the left-hand side of her body. She's also like... Technologies like autonomous cars hold this wonderful opportunity to bring mobility, change the way we mobile, change our cities.
Any companies you're thinking about that?
So, like, I love this, and I know there's lots of So I'm gonna these are the things that I find really compelling. So, these are the things that I find really compelling. One other story I'll share. There's this doctor I met in Calgary. He's a cardiologist. What they were working on is actual be able to use MRI technology developed on your brain, on your heart.
Oh.
Wow. And when you talk, the technology has the ability to isolate any one portion of your body and tell you what's blood, what's bone, what's everything. Wow. They can actually get a pretty precise understanding of what's going on in your heart, anywhere in your body.
Like the Star Trek tricorder?
Yeah. So it's like, and the challenge is, right now, these things cost $700.
I'll buy one.
$700 each, right, to have one done in your heart.
Okay.
He's looking at trying to use data and understand what's going on to be able to find ways so that we can focus that time and attention and energy so that it's less expensive.
That's great.
So that that kind of thing I find very compelling.
Does he have a name? Does he have a startup that we got like
James White.
I want you to label startups.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
He's
like
saying
these
autonomous
are,
cars, and I know there's a bunch of companies.
You know what? So like a kid in the candy store. Like these
know.
are some big things that excite me. Technology companies in the area that I think are like when it comes to like changing the way people. Distribution systems and everything else. I think what Ariane and ClearPath are doing is pretty sweet. There's a company called
Robots and Drones. You can't not love robots and drones.
Right. Well, and the impact they could have on some like distribution and stuff like that. Vigor Green Tech is a company that I think they're doing wonderful things to navigate this world between technology,
I love them too,
finance, and the regulatory environment to try to bring like green solar energy forward. I think they're doing some pretty cool stuff. There's a number of startups so I spent some time in Sweden, and there's this wonderful like community of like design companies, design consultancies or whatever that bringing their experience. Like I talked about, having changed the world, and they're doing these things again. Block Zero, Top, NoBiz, Intunio, Frankly, these are all the ones in Sweden. Snappy is one that's
Hashtag
local.
Startup Sweden.
I am changing my startup crush. My startup crush is Gary because he's compelling.
Yeah, I was
he
just thinking,
likes all of the startups, so I'm not going to have one.
I think I just want to come by here every morning and just watch him for 5 minutes.
Let's just have coffee in the morning.
Yeah,
And just watch Gary do what
my
he does.
day would be awesome after that because
He's got fun
the
shoes
motivating
all the time.
and
So the things that these
I agree.
So the things that these guys are looking at, like Block Zero is like redefining like even like ticket machines to make them more approachable. They've done some really cool work there. Their CEO is a guy from Canada who's in Sweden now, and actually he's back here visiting. You guys should hook him up for a podcast.
Didn't we send a lot of didn't BlackBerry send a lot of people to Sweden? And there was we lost people to Sweden.
Yes, like some people.
Didn't we lose you to
you know
Sweden for
what?
a while?
Yes, actually, and it was a wonderful environment there. And actually, one thing that I personally I find really compelling is the opportunity there is for communities to learn from each other.
Yeah.
There's some real as there are very strong strengths here in this community, there are some unique and very strong strengths in Malma, and there's these wonderful similarities between the two. They both have a very strong technical university with a broad history. They both spawned huge companies that were really large and that have now spawned all of these wonderful small, taking a fresh look at the way at societies and applying what they've learned into new spaces to rethink
communities that support
medical and kitchens and all kinds of stuff.
Sounds like they're everywhere, but they really are only in certain places where there's really that strong support and that the community embraces the innovation that comes out of the university or the students that come out of the university to keep them there. Like Waterloo, how we support the University of Waterloo grads, which has then supported all of the other schools that are here, and then all of the companies that have come from that.
Yeah.
And all of the companies that have come from Velocity or Accelerator Center or Communitech or all those places that it's that sort of community.
It's like a big warm hug.
Yeah, well, it sounds like
the government gets involved with grants and stuff too as well. And
talk to some startups.
Yeah, talk for money.
Gary's
You know, and I could keep going too. I could keep going too. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, sure you can.
If you asked me to pick one, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
But it's a problem I hope to have sometime. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Do you want to talk about a startup crush, or you just want to
Boy, I don't know if you can follow that, right?
No,
like you said.
You can. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine for this week was going to be Volterra. They are building a machine that prints circuit boards.
Yeah, they're just up from you in
Velocity. Yeah. So we did a lot of fun with LED glasses this week, and so everybody is all about the printed circuit board this week at work. So they're doing really cool things.
Yeah.
And I wish I understood it more because I'd love to have my own printed circuit board. I don't know how I'd populate it or what it would do.
What would you do with that?
Yeah,
you
it would
just
do
wish
something.
you had one.
A doorbell or something. But
yeah.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cool companies. I think that's the reality. Is there's cool companies all the time.
Yeah, and I really like the way you frame it, Gary, because I think company-based first, and you come at it much broader, like the technology, and then to the innovation, and then to the several companies that are doing it, right? So that's an interesting way to think about it. I like that.
Yeah, I know. I find it really compelling the impact that these things can have on the ways that we work and live. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah, you certainly
So-
seem to have bitten by the bug that you want to do that again
Oh,
and have
yeah.
that effect on people. And having been there, it's like, how do I get there again?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of wraps it up.
Yeah. How do we
So-
keep up with you, Gary?
You specifically, and then also Christie.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we first met.
It is how
My
we first
handle
met?
is Ger, Gehr.
Yep.
I'm thinking, I might need to get another one, but I can
An alt?
LinkedIn, Gary Klassen.
Okay.
And Christie Digital, either by the website, Christie Digital, or the Twitter as well.
And that is just at Christie Digital? Is that
Yep.
right? Is there any other ways? Is there like a Facebook or a... Yeah, there's a Facebook. We're getting nods from PR
Yes.
over here. Facebook and LinkedIn.
Come find
all
us.
of the ways.
Yes.
Christie's around. Do you welcome random visitors at Christie?
Oh, yeah.
No. Just thought I'd throw it out there. You can do a drive-by. You're welcome to look at it as you drive by in Wellington.
Please call first.
Maybe message
If
Gary.
you let
Maybe
us
he'll
know,
give
we
you a
can
tour.
give you a warmer welcome
Yeah,
and
we'll
an
give you a
appropriate tour.
All right, cool. All right, so that's Christie Digital. Do we need to say anything else?
For the podcast listeners that can't see the Corvette behind us, I just want to say that it's really cool. It's like a 3D hologram of a Stingray Corvette. I'm not sure, but it's really cool.
Actually, and what's wonderful, but that's one of those things. Talk about magic. Having like there's a few different a demo we've done that's a 3D model of a Corvette lit up in like with 3 projectors.
I don't
And
know
if you've
how you
seen
do
the
it, and I
demo-
don't care. I just
like
love
the
it.
dinosaur personally, but
Well, have you seen the dinosaur? Yeah. So that's
forget
on
the
my.
cars.
So
Dinosaurs.
what's wonderful is you actually see people interact with this demo. We use structured light to figure out where it is, and it's like it's this gray model, and then you do the structured light, and it looks kind of neat, and all of a sudden it lights up, and you see people's reaction. They go, oh, because all of a sudden it's lit up.
Yeah.
But the awesome thing is that if you see the inverse, if somebody walks up and they see it all lit up, and then you turn it off, they go, oh, what happened? Because they thought it was actually this
real thing.
vibrant, real
Magic.
thing,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you turned it into something gray, and they went, oh,
You're making
whoa.
magic, Gary.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
We'll throw a shot up of it. So you
Yeah,
can check
do
it
that.
out. So.
All right, well, I think that's it
Yeah.
for episode 106. For myself, Amaris Gerson, Stephen Campbell, and Gary Klassen, thanks for listening
We'll see you all
on episode 107.